I lost respect for him. I felt like this was an adult, but he was really my child that I had to take care of.
With respect out of the question,
She opened me to this thought of, well, maybe you married the wrong man.
Angie started to wonder if she'd made a mistake.
This doesn't apply to me. I was like, this is so true. I can see how like this control, it damages relationships, but like I have no choice.
She was convinced that nothing would ever change until
I just had this eye-opening realizing like I have so much in this man. I have loads and loads of gratitude for this man.
Angie, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Laura. I'm so excited to be here as well.
Wow. Well, I always like to hear what was going wrong. I like to start with the bad stuff. So, what was happening in your marriage?
Oh, so back in the bad old days, I was super controlling. I was a controlling dragon. I was even had that as a nickname, and I never understood why that was my nickname until I got the skills and realized, oh, I'm quite controlling. But in the bad old days, I really thought I was justified in all of my control because, like you mentioned in the intro, my husband. I met him in his home country, and he showed me around in his home country, and then he came to mine, and he didn't speak English, and I felt responsible for him. I felt like I had to show him how to do everything. I had to, like, he didn't really know how to use computers well. At least that was my perception. And so I had to tell him how to use GPS, how to get from point A to point B. I had to update his resume for him, help him find a job, show him how online banking works. Whenever his passwords were like he forgot them, I would have to unlock them and forget his password for him. It would drive me insane. But I was like, well, I guess he doesn't really speak English, so like, he can't navigate the website, so I guess I have to do it. So I just was, I truly felt justified that I was being helpful, that I was, you know, doing the right thing. But it was really squashing the intimacy and making me super exhausted.
Yeah. But I mean, in a way, yeah, what was your alternative, right? If he needed help and he's your husband and you're a good wife, of course you're going to help him unlock his passwords and get into the whatever he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely how I felt. But I realized that there was another way once I got the skills, but
well, so what, when you say it squished the intimacy, like what would happen? Let's say you help him with his computer. What do you mean it squished the intimacy? What happened?
gosh, it made me so resentful. I felt like, I had to do everything. I had a really busy job. I worked 80 hours a week as a resident. And, I was doing that. And then at home, I was managing everything. I was managing the finances. I was even managing our grocery list. I was like, and I even took pictures of the things that I wanted him to buy because God forbid he bought the wrong thing, hell would freeze over. I controlled everything. I controlled the finances. Even though he was an economist, I could not bear the idea of letting him handle the finances. It was always such a horrible, at the end of every month, it was like this horrible interaction that we had where he was like, well, tell me how much money I owe you. And I would go through his credit cards and ask him why he spent the money the way he did. And it just felt so icky. It didn't make me feel good. It didn't make him feel good. And, with all of that, I built this story in my head that he wasn't capable. I lost respect for him. I felt like this was an adult, but he was really my child that I had to take care of. And I was not I felt so resentful as time went on of me taking care of everything. And, at one point in our relationship, I was like, I don't even want to have kids because I can't imagine having more responsibilities on top of all the responsibilities that I have right now.
Yeah. And your free time was so limited already, 80 hours a week as a medical professional, I think, right?
Yeah.
So you were, I mean, just when I hear about somebody working 80 hours a week, I can't really imagine them doing anything else besides that.
Yeah, it was not easy. I was exhausted all the time, and not only that, like I was so exhausted when I came home. I was didn't even want to talk to him, and the whole language thing just made that so much more complicated because he didn't speak English, and I felt this responsibility to teach him English, and everyone expected that I would teach him English because I speak English, so why not? And so at home it was this really tense dynamic where like I would get mad if he didn't speak English, but then I would get mad because he didn't understand what I was saying. And so then I couldn't connect with him. And I didn't have the mental energy to keep that up after my long day of work. And it was not a good scenario.
No. And it sounds like there was no breaks from you being the teacher, the leader, the manager, the organizer, the person who monitors the spending. When you're at home, it wasn't relaxing at all.
No. Mm-mm.
No. So, so what happened? So, would you say you were less attracted to him then because he just seemed so incapable?
Yes, I was less attracted to him. He was always so sweet and doting, and I was just rejecting all of that all the time. Any of his um, any of his, not all. Of course, it wasn't all bad all the time, but like a lot of the times where he was being more affectionate or this or that, I just didn't feel that attraction to him. That same feeling that I had when we were back when I first met him.
Wow. Yeah. So, but he still loved you. So,
Yeah.
so, and you felt like the mom, it sounds like.
Hmm.
Is that, yeah. And mothers are not that physically attracted to their sons, right? So it
No.
just follows. So, but he still liked you. And so, yeah. So what happened?
So COVID hit, and of course, as a physician, that made my life a lot harder, a lot harder, a lot more
Yeah.
stressful, and I got into this really dark place. I was just stressed. I was upset. Everything was just really negative, and so I sought help from a therapist, and to her credit, she helped me get out of that really negative mind space, but she opened me to this thought of, well, maybe you married the wrong man after hearing all the complaints that I had about my relationship. She's like, maybe you're not actually happy in this relationship. Maybe you made a mistake in deciding to marry him. I don't know if that was the exact words that she said, but that's essentially the message that I received, right? Um, and and then that began this period that felt like forever at the time of being in agony. I was sitting on the fence, just debating like, did I make a mistake? Do I really want to stay married? Like, did I make a mistake in the beginning? Like, was there anything at all? Was there anything that this relationship was based on? Even with the whole language thing, I felt like because we didn't communicate, because we weren't connected, I didn't feel like I was his best friend, and that made me really sad. Like your partner is supposed to be your best friend. So I felt like, gosh, like I don't have that. And, I have to manage all these things for him. I have to be this mother figure, and that's not what I want either. Um, so I really debated for a long time, and it was really, really painful just to kind of think about. I was thinking about like, gosh, but like people were in the beginning were already debating, like kind of doubting us from, we come from two different backgrounds. They doubted like, why are these two getting together? And I didn't want to prove them right, by breaking up. And we had this big wedding, like not even 2 years prior. And that I didn't want to feel like that was a huge waste. And, I didn't want to start over. And I felt bad for him. I was like, I don't want to, he came to this country for me. I don't want to divorce him and leave him high and dry, like, and especially if he can't manage things on his own, like, God forbid, like I left him. So I really felt stuck. And I was really thinking like, do I stay or do I leave from this relationship?
Wow. And like no pressure, but he's here in the country because of you. And so if you left him and there was that big wedding just 2 years ago, like, yeah, a lot of social pressure on you to stay in this
Mhm.
relationship. So
Mhm.
sounds like you wanted to leave at that point.
Yeah, I really considered it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, and so you're just agonizing. You said it felt like a long time because the fence is painful, right? Sitting on the
Mhm.
fence, couldn't get all the way in and couldn't get all the way out either. It was just, so every day you're just having this debate with yourself about, oh, should I, or maybe I should, or maybe I shouldn't. Oh, I can't do that to him. Can't do that to everybody in my circle. But gosh, wouldn't
Yeah.
it be great to leave? That was the conversation going on.
Yeah, that's exactly the conversation that was in my head.
Yeah. Ouch. Sounds very painful and exhausting.
Mhm.
So, how long would you say that went on?
I want to. It felt like forever, but probably realistically, that agony lasted about maybe a month or two, and it ended because, or not ended, but it changed because my best friend, she bought me your book, and we read it together. She was like, there's this woman. I've read her podcast. Someone recommended it to me. She has these really, non-traditional ideas about how to change your marriage, or unconventional, I guess. She's like, but you have to promise me you're going to read the book with an open mind, and I'll read it with you. And I was like, okay, I'll read the book. And so we read the book, and then when I learned about, being on the fence, and but as I read the book, I really thought this doesn't apply to me. I was like, this is so true. I can see how like this control, it damages relationships, but like I have no choice. I have to control all the things. If I don't control, then our life will fall apart. If I don't figure out what job he has, if I don't help him, get the next job or sign in for his shifts at work, like all these things that I felt like I must do. Um, and so I was like, this doesn't apply to me. Like, it's controlling, but I have to control.
You have no choice. You had no choice. Yeah. Wow. And so, had you shared with your friend about your dilemma and wanting to leave?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. She knew. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, all right. So you read the book. It doesn't really apply to you. So then what?
So I'm still in agony, actually, like in retrospect. I'm reading the book, right? But I'm still in agony. And
Yeah.
at one point, one of my friends, she's divorced, and she goes, well, divorce costs a lot of money. And I was thinking about the joining the program, and I was like, and I saw that it was an investment on the website, and I was like, well, I'd rather invest money in perhaps making this work than like just divorce, right? Just quit. It's like divorces are expensive, they're complicated. Like I would feel a lot better about whether or not to get divorced if I felt like I did everything I could before walking away. And so I signed up for a discovery call, and the coach who did my discovery call, I really was expecting her to say, yeah, I'm sorry, this doesn't apply to you. You're right. Your marriage is hopeless. I really thought she was going to say that because I was just like, I really just couldn't see any other way. I was just so, blinded by how this must be this way. Um, but no, she didn't say that. She, in fact, said, I really think this could help you. And she also talked to me about how, even if I decided to walk away, I would feel like this was a good investment of learning to be a better person, be a better version of me. And because I knew this like Angie the Dragon nickname, I was like, well, that sounds kind of interesting to not be a dragon anymore. And spoiler alert, I do think I'm less of a dragon now after the program. But that's honestly really what got me was her telling me that it was going to be really a self-improvement program for myself. And I was like, okay, because I was very much like, I don't know if I'm going to stay in this relationship, right? But at the very least, if this investment is going to make me a better version of me, that sounds good. That sounds like a good investment regardless. And
Wow.
I also I must add, during that call, I was like, but I have to double check. Relinquishing control of the finances, that's not a requirement for the program, right? Because I can't imagine a world in which I would do that. So I had to check that that was not a requirement. Thankfully, it was not. But also, spoiler alert, I did eventually relinquish control of the finances.
Wow. It's a good thing you didn't know too much right before you jumped in. I love it. I love it. So you were interested in self-improvement. This
Yeah,
was really okay. So you didn't have much respect for him and you knew that you might still leave the relationship, but the
yeah.
self-improvement part got you and you wouldn't have to give up finances. So that was lucky. So it sounds like, so I happen to know you signed up. And what was your first program that you signed up for?
I signed up for Diamond. I had 6 months of private coach as well as the group coaching. I went right in.
Ah, cool. And what was the first thing you started doing differently, or what were some of your aha moments that came out of that?
So I think I had never really understood self care, this concept of like, loving yourself through self care. I had always known that, you should love yourself, right? You have to love yourself first before you're able to be in a relationship. But I hadn't understood how practically you could do that via self care. And so that was a big change to start to replenish myself. And looking back, I realized that, when COVID hit and things were really bad, my self care was really low. And that's why I couldn't tolerate anything, right? But so in the program, I learned self care, and that was sort of this basic. That's the first skill that we're encouraged to try out, and that if I hadn't done that, none of the other things would have worked. I wouldn't have been able to apply gratitudes or spouse fulfilling prophecies or any of the other skills without it. So that was definitely the first thing. But the other, I feel like the two skills that really made a change for me were the spouse fulfilling prophecy. My coach, she encouraged me to think about, what is the experience that I want to have. And I also watched Live with Laura videos where you talked about this as well. And working through with both of those things really helped me. And I thought, what I want is a partner who is my equal, who is responsible, who feels like a true partner. And so my coach encouraged me to every day find pieces of evidence that's going to support that vision of the experience I want to be having. And so I would come up with evidence like he does the laundry when I remind him to. He goes grocery shopping when I tell him what to buy. Like there was always a but. It wasn't really getting at the point of what I wanted to get. And
Yeah.
and I remembered you taught we can't be resentful and grateful at the same time. And so I realized like holding on to these caveats was not serving me for my vision. And so because I had the self-care, was able to stretch and let go of those caveats and really dig and find the evidence that he was responsible, that he was my partner, and that he did contribute in the household. And I grew
Uh-huh.
that list over time, and now it's something where I don't even think about it. It's a given that that's how I feel about him.
That's just the truth now. So
Exactly.
I love this idea that you kind of just let go of those caveats, but can you tell us any more about how you did that? Because that sounds very real. Like he'll go to the grocery store, but only if I tell him what to get and take a picture of it first so he doesn't buy the wrong thing. So where did those caveats go when you decided to let go of
So
them?
I think it ties into the other skill that was my big thing, which was receiving. I feel like they kind of happened hand in hand. My coach, she was like, it sounds like you have 90% of what you want in a marriage or in your husband and 10% of what you don't have. And how does it serve you to focus on that 10% that you're lacking? And I was like, you're right, it doesn't. And so she challenged me to receive everything for 3 weeks. She was like, just receive and, don't try to control it. Just receive things as they are. And so I spent those 3 weeks being really pleasable to just accept what I was getting because he would give me a certain type of affection, but it wasn't the type of affection I wanted, so that wasn't making me happy, right? So during that 3 weeks, I just received. I received it all, and miraculously, I just started receiving even more and more from the universe. Like people gave me free stuff, like, people were nice to me. It was just like I was attracting more and more of that, and I think that in that practice of just being pleasable and just being grateful, I was able to let go of those caveats and just, I just received that he's doing the grocery shopping, he's doing the laundry. And then I was able to just, even the once you start to find the evidence, it kind of snowballs, right? So then I was able to much more easily find the next thing and the next thing, all these different ways in which he was my partner. I was like, oh, he remembers to move the car when, the parking rules change. He does that without my reminding him. He takes the dog out for a walk without reminding him. I was able to find all these different pieces of evidence that didn't have any caveats once I was able to sort of stop focusing on them.
Ah, so you got a new pair of glasses, and when you put them on, oh, there's actually more here that he does.
Yeah.
Wow. You got this big smile on your face when you're talking about focusing on receiving and how just more things started coming your way. So I just get a sense of the joy in that process. Like this wasn't exhausting working on your relationship at all. It doesn't sound like.
No, I mean, it was work, but it wasn't exhausting. It felt really good. It felt good to do self-care. It felt good to receive. Like I was able it felt exciting to sort of see these changes here and there to work through it.
Now, and when you started with your coach, you were really on the fence. You were thinking about leaving, kind of maybe fantasizing about leaving, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And your husband must have known about that. And usually husbands get defensive when their wife is thinking about leaving them. So was he, I mean, how was he reacting to you right when you first started the coaching? Because I imagine it was, I imagine he was defensive. Am I right about that? I'm making things up here.
Well, I don't think I don't remember if I framed it to him as like I'm doing this before I leave, I think that was in my mind. But we were fighting a lot at that time.
Okay.
Our fights were quite ugly before before I started really getting in with the skills. And so he wasn't defensive about me joining the program, but things were not pretty at that moment.
Gotcha. Okay. And he knew you didn't respect him.
Yeah.
And so that causes in our experience, that causes some conflict for sure. So when you were looking to look at the ways that he was contributing, so the resentment was already high. I guess it's surprising in a way that there was so much to see. There was so much to receive, so quickly after being on the fence and feeling like you didn't respect him, and he was responding to you. There was a lot of fighting.
Well, I would say the receiving happened. Sort of that receiving project was a few months into the program. Not so.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So some things had already changed. You'd already started, you're doing more self-care.
Yeah. And doing more gratitudes as well.
Gratitudes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. This was to fill out your spouse fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. What was your spouse fulfilling prophecy again?
That my husband was an equal and responsible partner.
Okay.
Because during that therapist, she was like, it sounds like you don't view him as your equal. So I wanted, that was a really big deal for me to view him as my equal and view him as responsible.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it felt like a stretch, to say the least, when you first came up with that.
Yeah, it felt like a lie, to say it.
It was a lie.
But, and I actually experimented with, when I finally had the courage of actually saying some positive spouse fulfilling prophecies to him. I don't think I said quite that to him, but I started with like, "You're my hero," and he was like, he looked at me kind of like, "What? What did you just say?" Like, I don't believe this. And but I would be like, "No, you're my hero. Like, you do so much for me." Like, I was trying to find these gratitudes, and really trying to polish my wife mirror.
Now, was it scary to say that? Especially like he didn't look very convinced. Like he thought you were lying,
Yeah,
basically.
it was.
And
And honestly, I chose "You're my hero" because it felt like a safer thing to say than to be like, "You're my equal partner that is responsible," you know?
you're like, that's not true. I can't defend that. But you're my hero felt defensible.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
s- I started to see all the ways in which he did things for me, like, and truly appreciated it. Like, he would wake up and make me coffee and breakfast every morning, even if he didn't have to wake up that day. I worked all odd hours, and he would always do that for me. And one of my big complaints before the skills was I would be angry that there would be like peanut butter smears on my doorknobs and like the fridge handle and things. And I'm like, if your hands are dirty with peanut butter and you touch something else, it's gonna get dirty too. Like, you don't have common sense. This was my one of my big pieces of evidence as to one of the ways in which my husband was not capable. Um, but eventually, I was able to shift and see actually, like, the peanut butter, he's doing all the, like, he's preparing me breakfast. That's why there's peanut butter in places. And instead of focusing on the smears of peanut butter, I'm going to focus on how he's making me breakfast and appreciate that because it just serves me way more to do that.
Yeah. Without that peanut butter on the handle, you're making your own breakfast. Yeah. No. Yeah. You're making your breakfast. What a great example of changing your focus and so relatable. I can really identify with, yeah, like, but you didn't wipe off the counter, but it was, yeah, it's because he made my tea that there's a spot on the counter to begin with. So
Hmm.
I love that. Yeah. And and it sounds like he, I mean, he was always doting. You guys were fighting, but it sounds like he responded to the skills pretty well. I mean, he had some doubt in that moment. So what did you do when you said, "You're my hero," and he looked at you skeptically, just kind of let that one lie? Or what did you do?
I think I let that one lie, but I kept sprinkling it in. I kept sprinkling it in here and there, and I started to express gratitudes to him as well. Um, in the program, we're encouraged to like express 3 gratitudes to your partner a day. So I was trying to do that, and when I was doing that, I would throw in my "you're my hero" in my gratitudes, and I think just by me kind of making a practice out of it, he started to kind of be like, okay, she means this. She's not lying because she keeps saying it, so it must be true.
Oh, he started to be convinced, and you were finding evidence for it too, like that
Yeah.
he made your breakfast. Wow, I love it. And then did you see a shift in him as he started to feel like your hero?
Yeah. So the relinquishing control of the finances was I feel like a big place where we felt a shift. Even in the beginning, like obviously things started when I started to be express more gratitudes, things started to shift at that moment. Like we just didn't fight as much, right? Because I'm being more pleasant. Um, but it wasn't until I relinquished control of the finances that I really noticed this kind of shift in him where it almost felt like he stood taller because I gave him this responsibility. And I did so by saying to him, I can't manage the finances. It's very stressful to me. I really trust you to do this. And, I think you would do a better job at it than I do. Because you're an economist. And he was like, are you sure? and and honestly, it took a little bit of reiterating a bunch of times and a bit of doubling down on the I trust you. I feel like you can do this. You can handle this. And doubling down on you're the manager of the finances. And sort of with that, I could tell that he was like, oh, okay, I'm the manager of the finances. And he was sort of taking that on and feeling much more like he was valued in the household, right? Like he had some responsibility. He wasn't just, a peon doing things. He was like, my partner. I could tell that he felt better that way, and he would like come up with ideas and come talk to me about his different ideas related to the finances. He was just showing a lot more initiative now that I've released some of the control.
Now, so I love that. I mean, that sounds really attractive. It sounds attractive for your husband to show up that way. Now, but this was a caveat for you. And when you joined the program, you wanted to make sure you didn't have to relinquish finances,
Yeah.
control of that. So how did you get there? Like, what did you think like this would be a good idea?
I drank the Kool-Aid, Laura.
Very good Kool-Aid, right?
I was like, you were, I don't remember if it was you or if it was other women on the podcast, but talking about how like it brought them closer to not have the finances separate. And I had realized it was such a pain point for me to have the finances were separate, even though it was a caveat because I had so much fear. I kind of got clued into actually this is really stressful. It's a really unpleasant experience that the two of us go through every month. And it also separates us, like we had a difference in income because he was new to this country. And so he wasn't able to get jobs, up his full potential. And so there was always this like, well, you can afford to do that, but I can't afford to do that. And I really didn't like that. I didn't want to have this separation between us. I really wanted us to be together. Um, and I didn't feel any resentment about our differences in income. Like, thankfully, that was actually never really like a point of contention for us. But the point of contention was feeling that he was making a big deal out of it. And I was like, I just want us to be able to enjoy life together, and like just be on the same team together and just approach things as a unified front. So when I was able to get to that point through seeing that actually, yeah, my relationship is worth saving. My husband is an amazing person. I do want to stay married to him, and I do want to feel unified for him. I got there eventually of feeling like, yeah, I want to relinquish control of these finances and really be together.
Wow. Amazing. It does sound really courageous. Especially being the higher earner and just, stereotypically doctors make a lot of money. So it's an enormous show of trust and, such a difference from, I'm going to take this program and I might leave them, but, right. It's like kind of the opposite of where you thought you'd end up, maybe. And,
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like a vulnerable thing to do. So, and and was there, and you mentioned like realizing like I do want to stay married. He is an amazing person. And
Yeah.
there was a moment when you felt like that kind of clicked in for you, or was this just a gradual thing that you
I
found
don't have
yourself?
a specific like story, but it was definitely after that receiving experiment that my coach had me do. It was like I just had this eye-opening realizing like I have so much in this man. I have loads and loads of gratitude for this man. Like, why would I walk away when I have so much? I just, it was receiving all that I was getting from him, and the receiving was really also an exercise of relinquishing control, right? Because I had to receive things as they came to me, and so it was sort of kind of when I realized that if I relinquish control of exactly how things come to me and I instead can just take pleasure in how they're coming to me, then I can see how much I have to be grateful for. And that's when I had
Wow.
the shift.
Wow. I mean, I love that. Can you think of any examples of like things that you received that, where the previous Angie would have been like, oh, this is not the way I like it. But
I
the,
can think of a kind of silly one.
oh,
Um, my feet were really cold one day, and he took his socks off and put them on my feet. And previous Angie would have been like, "Oh my God, that's so gross! You put your dirty socks on my feet." But this time I was like, "Oh, what an act of sweet kindness that he's putting his socks on my feet to be warmer."
oh, it's a beautiful example. I love that example. It is, yeah, you could see it either way. You get to decide, and you chose to see the sweetness and the kindness in it.
Yeah. Oh, and another one. I have another actually really good one. This would come up all the time. I would ask him to get something, like I would be cooking and I would realize, oh, I'm missing so and so ingredient. And so he would go out to go buy it, and he wouldn't be able to find it at the first store. So he'd go to like three stores trying to find this ingredient that I'm missing. And meanwhile, I'm at home fuming about how long it's taking him to get me this ingredient. And so by the time got home, I would be really upset with him. Like, why did it take you so long? I've been waiting. Like, like I just can't believe you like would go to three different stores and just give up. I've been waiting. I didn't know. So I would just be so upset, and I wouldn't receive this like incredible act of generosity that he's like going out of his way to find the store for me, to find this specific ingredient. And so once I was able to receive, I could see it in that light instead of in the critical light of like, what kind of person goes to three stores to find some, baking powder?
Yeah. Wow. That is a great example. Like this guy will go to any length to get what Angie wants. And that's the new Angie. Instead of like, oh, he's taking too long. The recipe's ruined. Right. Like I didn't want to
Right.
wait that long. Yeah. Yeah. Great examples. So, okay. So at some point you said, you know what? I'm in. Why would I ever leave this relationship? I wouldn't. My husband's amazing. And then I think I happen to know your family expanded a little bit.
Yes. We ended up having a baby. We have a baby girl, and gosh, if I had not had the skills, this would be firstly, I probably wouldn't have this child, but secondly, the experience as a new mom would be much different. It is so hard being a new mom, and especially in the immediate, couple of months, it was incredibly challenging. And I was so thankful to have the skills to be able to remember, hey, self-care is important still. And if I'm feeling really low, that means my self-care tank is empty. If I'm feeling really irritable, I got to do some self-care to get that back up. And also, receiving the ways in which he was trying to be helpful with the baby, and and in that, not controlling exactly how I wanted things to be. That was our big fight. Things had to be exactly how I wanted them to be. And now with the baby, like, I let him do things. Like, of course I have my preferences, and of course this is like probably the hard part of practicing the skills, is relinquishing the control when it comes to my child, right? But definitely
Yeah.
I do it a lot more than I would have had I not had the skills. And I really think that because I I am less controlling, he takes much more initiative. He shows up. He does, like, definitely way more than I do to help take care of our daughter. And so, like, I'm sure that if I was controlling, he would feel no initiative to do any of those things, right? But like, he does way more, and it's just because I can just receive and feel grateful and not criticize the way he's doing things, because they're not how I would do them.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing to hear. He does way more because you're a new mom. I mean, you don't hear that, I don't think, very often from new moms, right? So, and just the fact that you had this baby out of a relationship that you thought was a mistake that's such a miracle too. So how cool that your daughter is born into a skilled home. That's it. And so what is your relationship like now?
It's so good. Like, I had to dig back and think a little bit about what the bad day old days were like, because it's just so much better and so much different now. And I've been in this program for a couple of years now, but we rarely fight. We really, really rarely fight. And my husband, he really is my hero. I still tell him all the time that he's my hero. He's always doing things to lighten my load, and I just express so much gratitude all the time to him. I still keep up my daily gratitude list, and it's just like it flows with abundance. When I get to the part where I'm grateful of things about him, I just like I have to just stop myself, because I'm like I could go on forever about how many things I'm grateful for. Um, we have a lot more like attraction, obviously, between us as well, which is lovely. A lot more playful, pats on the butt and things like that. And yeah, we just have a lot of peace, and there isn't that same criticism, that control, all this needless emotional turmoil. Like all of that feels like a thing of the past, because I've just been able to like really focus on me and my paper and receiving, and you know practicing the skills, making things feel magical. Things, your book, things can get as good as they can stand, or as good as you can stand.
Wow,
That's what
amazing.
it
It
felt
sounds
like.
like the kind of
Uh,
relationship everybody wants, where you've got more than three things to thank him for every day, because you feel so grateful all the time. And there's the pats on the butt, which I think is really important. And and you're feeling, I mean, I love the part where you feel so supported as a mom. Like that seems like a big deal. Um, now, and you signed up for the
yeah,
Diamond program, at least, uh, thinking, well, at least I'll improve Angie. Maybe I'll improve Angie. So tell me about that. Like, uh, did
yeah.
you?
I'm so glad you asked, because I do really think my whole life has changed. Like not only my relationship, but my whole life has changed. I used to come home from work, and my husband would ask, "How was your day?" And I was like, "Don't even ask me." Like that, like I would just feel miserable, because I would just be so exhausted. Um, and now I come home from work and I say, "Good, great, happy, busy but good." I have much more positive attitude. I'm much less controlling about things overall. When I request things, I express them as a desire from my paper, so I'm not coming off as controlling to other people as much. Um, my relationship with my family is better as well. Like my sister has identified, she's always telling me about how she just feels like, wow, she's so inspired by the ways in which I've changed and the ways in which I'm able to show up. Especially with our parents. Um, things with them growing up were testy, I guess you can say. Not ideal. And now I live with them. and and I joined relationship coach training. That was my big challenge during relationship coach training, was like getting through this like moving in with my parents situation. And uh and 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 sometimes it feels like climbing Mount Everest, but it feels so good to be able to, like, when I see the shifts of the things in our relationship with my parents that are getting better, it just feels so, so good to feel like, yeah, we're having safety, we're having conversations, we're spending time together, we're not fighting, we want to be around each other, we're able to respect one another. Like, it just feels way better now
Yeah,
than
I
it's
remember
ever
being
felt
pretty astonished
before.
about this when you were coming through a relationship coach certification. That like, wait, you want to spend time together? You live with them, and you want to spend time. And your sister, like someone who's known you your whole life, like can't shut up about the difference she sees in you. Really says a lot about, and it sounds like your parents maybe were not perfect, like most parents, right? So there was some challenges that that you now have the skills to handle in a way where your relationship is peaceful and enjoyable with them.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And that wouldn't have
Yeah.
been the case
Well,
without the
it
skills.
sounds like a miracle. I mean, the whole thing sounds like a miracle, right? This marriage that you were on the fence about, you're crazy about him. You love him almost as much as he's always loved you, it sounds like. and, and you have your daughter and a great
Yeah.
relationship with your parents. And all of this could have gone a different way. It could have all gone a different way in the beginning. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really impressive. Wait, and you also sound very confident about these relationships. Like you sound like you're more confident overall. Do you ever find yourself jumping on that fence again? Never.
No. Like maybe like in the heat of a moment I'm in a fight, like maybe I've jumped on the fence twice since I've joined the program, but like
Sure.
just in that moment, you know? And then like
Yeah.
5 minutes later,
Yeah.
I'm like, no, 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 that was silly, you know. And it's because I have the skills, right? I can fall back on the skills. I hear your voice saying, you know, because from your audiobook saying like, you know, I could have married myself, you know, but I didn't, you know. And I'm like, no, yeah, that's not what I want in this situation. And like, you know, I want overall, like this is my vision is to stay married, to have this beautiful partnership, for my daughter to have two parents who are in love and
Yeah.
at
I
peace and
can't think
happy, you
anything
know?
that's sounds more worthy, more important than that. So I love that vision. What would you say to somebody who is where you were, just thinking, I really blew it. I picked the wrong guy. He's not even my best friend. I have to do everything for him. And I don't see how the skills could possibly apply to me. But she wants what you have now, where, yeah, there's pats on the butt and he does more for their daughter than you do. And she's so full of gratitude. And so, I remember you wrote how proud you were of your husband. And she wants to feel like you do. What, what's your, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
can I add before I give you the advice? I like because you reminded me like so firstly we have deep conversations now and so I do feel like he's my best friend and I love problem solving with him. Like it just you know, we're a team. Like I love just handling problems with him. He brings a perspective to me to the situation that I don't see and I so much value that. And then I also wanted to just add, I would complain about his job, right? And like him being not tech savvy. Now he works at a job where he's like the tech support at his job. So
Same
like,
guy, same
once
guy.
I was able to relinquish control, same guy, like he was able to show up. He was able to really like meet his potential and do so much more, you know, when he wasn't being limited by the ways in
Wow.
which
So
I saw
he
him.
changed. Okay, so let's say he gets
Yeah.
locked out and he needs a new password or whatever right now. Like, what happens? Do you fix it? Yeah, you haven't heard about that
I
happening
don't
for a
know
while.
about
Huh?
it.
Okay, so might not even be happening
Yeah,
now. Okay,
yeah. And even if it is, he's definitely no. I know it is. I know because I remember there was one day he was like, "Do you remember my password for so and so?" And I was like, "I don't." And that was the end. There was no like, "Help me figure it out" or whatever. He figured it out on his
and you
own.
didn't
I was
jump
so
up to go
impressed,
over
and
there and
he
like,
did
okay, here
the
I'll fix.
whole
I know how
process.
to
And
fix it up. Okay, and what about the language issue?
yeah,
Right, you still are a native English speaker and a native English in an English speaking country. What about the moments when you felt like you had
yeah.
to intervene for that?
I used to always ask him, "Are you sure you understood?" Like, as if he's not going to ask if he doesn't understand himself, right? He's going to be the first person to be like, "Yeah, I didn't get that," but I would always be like, "Are you sure?" So, um, in his job, he speaks English. Like his boss, his colleagues, they don't speak Spanish. He speaks English with them at his job. So he's able to speak enough English. He's able to grow that, you know, and I and I stopped controlling like what language do we speak at home. I don't think about it. We speak whatever language comes naturally. And we have conversations in a mix of English and Spanish, and he gets it. And I don't
Oh
have to ask him if he
wow!
gets it
Well, so
anymore.
and you don't have to teach him English anymore, I guess. Like you felt like you, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. And your daughter's getting a bilingual life. It sounds like, which is what a nice gift for her. And
Yes. Yes.
okay, and there was one more thing you had said at the beginning that was a problem. I was going to ask you about it. Oh, forget. Well, anyway, okay. So your advice for somebody who's feeling like, well, there really are these reasons. These are real reasons. The language barrier, and he doesn't know the country, and he's not tech savvy. But she wants a husband who now works in tech support and yeah, handles all the finances and yeah, yeah. What's your advice for her?
To get involved with skills and get involved with the program. Like reading the book was eye-opening, but getting in the program was really took it to the next level. I really could see that there were ways in which I could apply these things. There were ways in which this was true for me, and being in a community of like-minded women has just been so inspiring, and I love being part of this community. I just feel continuously inspired by new ways in which women are applying the skills themselves. I'm like, oh, I could do that in my life. And so, just hearing each other's stories just helps make it stronger within yourself to practice these skills. And I think, it's also so valuable to have a space and have people to whom you can go to complain about, your husband. Because it's not like things are always roses, right? But there's stuff that comes up, and we are mere mortal women. And I love that I have this safe space that I can go to talk to women where I know that their advice isn't going to be, well, leave him, like their advice is going to be helping me to see a way to get me back towards my vision. So I just think like joining this program has been amazing.
That's great. I love that you continue to feel inspired about like taking your relationship to an even higher level than it's already at. Like you seem pretty swoony over your husband, but you're also like, oh, there's even more ways I can apply the skills. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And
constantly.
what do you think you would say to Angie if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
There's so much I would tell her. I would tell her, the specific things to change. I would tell her that I think a big thing that I learned that I would tell her is all these fears that I have that makes me want to control everything. At the end of the day, they're not actually worth the loss of intimacy. They're not actually that big of a deal. Things find their own way to work itself out at the end. And so, you know, let go a little bit of that fear, let go a little bit of that control, learn how to do self-care, fill up your tank, and see all the ways in which life has an abundance for you.
Love it. It's wisdom bomb. Do you still work 80 hours a week?
Thankfully, no.
Because I mean, it would be pretty hard to even practice skills. I would feel like if with that kind of schedule. How much do you work now?
Yeah. Like I work a normal 40 hour. Well, no, that's not true. I work at probably like 50
50
hours a
hours a
week
week.
ish.
Okay, still a
Yeah.
lot of hours. But it's still
Yeah.
doable to it's still, you can still get your self care in and you're still keeping that gratitude mindset, with those kinds of workers. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, the gratitude for sure. The self-care, as a new mom, figuring out that was a struggle, figuring out where to fit in the self-care. But I had to be creative, what are the ways in which I can do self-care with my daughter? I like started singing karaoke with her and dancing around the house with her, ways in which I could make play also my self-care instead of just her play, had to be creative about that. And then also had to give myself permission to like take time to do self-care apart from her, which is really hard as a new mom because you just want to be with your, like, I'm already at work for 50 hours a week, right? Plus the commute time. So wanting to spend all of my waking time with her, but realizing actually I need to do some self-care to show up as the mom that I want to be and show up as the wife that I want to be. And so allowing myself to build that in. and having to be creative about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And so kind of fighting against that urge to always be with her in order to be the best mom, the kind of mom, the best Angie you can be. It's kind of an
Yeah.
act of courage in
Yeah.
a way, it sounds like.
It is. Yeah.
Take some.
Because it takes courage to let go of like that guilt and that fear and that and, like this. I have to remind myself quite often like it's okay for me to step away and do this thing that I need to do today because it's going to help me be a better mom for her later.
Yeah. I also love that you did karaoke. We do karaoke with your baby because it's fun for you. And I'm sure she enjoys it too. We can't know yet, right? Maybe, but, and the dancing.
Oh no,
She
she
enjoys
enjoys
it.
it. She grabs the mic.
Okay. She loves it then. All right. Cool. Good to hear. Well, Angie, I love this story. It's super inspiring that you took a man who was not tech savvy and that you didn't have much respect for. And, I guess just the way you speak of him now, it sounds like you have a lot of respect for your husband. And,
Yeah. Yeah. He's so capable. I don't have a second doubt about it anymore.
it's awesome. And, yeah, I definitely think you deserve the Best Wife Award. I would like to award this to you for, really not just fixing your marriage, but creating a family, creating connection and, like choosing commitment over your fears and like all the misgivings you had, all the reasons that you had, that maybe you had made a mistake and that you wanted to leave and that you were in agony and you were sitting on that fence. From hearing your story, it sounds like you just vanquished them all. Those aren't even real anymore. And now you get to have the kind of marriage you dreamed of when you decided to get married. And you
Yeah.
sound like you're in love. And I can't think of anything more important, more valuable to work on and do. And you did it. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Laura. I couldn't have done it without you in this community.
I'm so glad you're one of us that we have you in this community. It's very uplifting to get to hear
Yes.
all that you're.
And I decided to be a coach because I never wanted to leave the community. I like want to stick around you guys forever.
Yeah, me too. I want to stick around you forever too. And it means a lot to me that you decided to become a coach. And your commitment extends even to me and the whole community. And I'm so grateful for that, Angie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this has been great. This is, going to give me a spring in my step for quite a while. I'm getting to hear this.
I'm so glad. It's giving me a spring in my step too to reflect back and see how much we've changed and how things are so much better. Like it's just a reminder how keeping present to what we're doing with the skills and where we are and where we're going, it just helps keep that alive and keep that attitude higher.
Yeah. So it sounds like just telling your story, just sharing it, just going back to those bad old days and then reflecting on where you are, is like adding to your practice of the skills. It's like making it even more real.
Yeah.
And also that we're having a little celebration about all that you accomplished.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been great.
For more of the proven secrets on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, check this out.